Half my brain's hide behind my back every day, folks, and it's all about fairness. Just to be fair to the liberals that might happen to get through here. 800-282-2882. This is Bob in Coronado, California. Hey, Bob, I'm glad you called, sir. Welcome to the EIB network.
Thank you. Isn't it strange that only 3 weeks ago the liberals in Indiana proclaimed a war on Christianity and boycotts and so forth, and then ironically 3 weeks later in Baltimore they go straight to the black clergy. They go to the Christians to the rescue. And it's just, I know in the past you've mentioned that Bill Clinton did this with the black clergy, but it's so strange that they'd go to the Christians when their liberal communities are falling apart.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting fact. It's a great point that African-American Christians are allowed to get away with it and be prominent in the Democrat Party. But why is that? The answer is what I've always said. Liberals are liberals first. And as long as you are proven to be ideologically correct, whatever you are after that will be dealt with accordingly. So the black clergy, that branch of Christianity will never, ever come under assault by the Democrat Party. And in fact, these black clergy are given seats of power at the Democrat Party table of power, and they have to do certain things to keep that seat, and that largely is vote turnout on presidential years. That's their purpose. That's the deal. That's it. The Civil Rights Coalition, if they turn out their voters, then they get a seat at the table of power for the Democrat Party. But your point is really well taken. When it comes to African-American Christianity, hey, the Democrats look to it. Yeah, but Bill Clinton got in trouble with Monica Lewinsky, who's right up there praying with him. The Reverend Jackson. And they're praying to God, hoping that Clinton can find guidance and so forth. And yet, any other minister, not African-American, and Christianity is under assault. That's why, folks, that's why it gets so frustrating. Everything that's happening in this country's politics and everything that's happening in this country can be understood if you simply are willing, courageous enough to accept the ideological component of everybody involved. And once you're able to do that, everything is understandable. Not that it makes sense, but you'll be able to understand the players and why they do what they do and who they are. I find it interesting that it's always leftists and their minions who run around whining and moaning about politics, when everything they do is political. Everything that orients them, that informs them, that motivates them is their political agenda. And there is a single ideology that is required of you, and that's liberalism, some form of it. Anything else is not tolerated, and that's when being a Christian becomes something that you can be condemned for, is when you're not a liberal. I mean, the left embraces whatever liberal ideology that might make its way into the Episcopal Church, for example. So that's the key to understanding this. One other thing, I want to go back, keep pounding this number of $22 trillion, because Obama is out blaming the Republicans for this. Right, here it is. This is a Breitbart story, YouTube video of Obama yesterday. Headline, Obama on Baltimore, Republican Congress won't invest in urban communities. Folks, that is such an out lie. That's almost, if in the real world, that'd be an actionable lie. $22 trillion? And Republican presidents have signed the bills. Republican members of Congress have voted for them. In many cases, you dare not vote for it. $22 trillion spent on anti-poverty programs. And there's Obama saying Baltimore is the result of the Republicans not caring and not funding and investing in the urban communities of America. I think the more relevant aspect is who's running these communities and has been for decades. Now, when we started the war on poverty, LBJ announces his grand scheme. the war on poverty and the Great Society. You know what the percentage of Americans living below the poverty line, in poverty, was? And by the way, the poverty number is an arbitrarily chosen number. The census, or somebody chooses it based on market characteristics, like what it costs to feed a family, afford, do this or that, live in a place. And I think the poverty line's 35 or 34 grand a year right now. Family 4, maybe a little higher. Whatever. Poverty in this country is not poverty around the world. Rector's also done the research on that. We've reported that and gotten into trouble for it. But the number of cars, air-conditioned homes, big-screen TVs possessed by people in poverty in America would astound the poor people in the world. But anyway, the percentage was 14. 14%, the American population lived below the poverty line when we started the Great Society and the wall on poverty. $22 trillion later, the Census Bureau reports the poverty rate last year was 14%. The same as it was in 1967, 3 years after the war on poverty was announced, which was 1964. 1967, also the last year Baltimore had a Republican mayor. Quick time out. We'll be right back, folks. Don't go away.